Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving straight into, well, a really transformative shift.
Right. We want to give you a clear picture of where things stand with AI in medical training right now. The different ideas being proposed, how students and faculty are feeling about it.
And the big opportunities, but also the hurdles that come with bringing AI into this world.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. What immediately struck me from the sources is just how fast AI is becoming part of everyday healthcare. It's not just theory anymore, is it?
Not at all. The data really shows AI is already being used, and in pretty meaningful ways, actually.
Like improving diagnoses?
Yeah, improving diagnostic accuracy across, well, a whole spectrum of conditions. It's also helping with risk assessment, figuring out who's most likely to develop certain issues.
And making treatments more efficient? I saw that mentioned too.
Definitely making treatments more efficient.
So we're talking concrete applications here. The sources gave some pretty compelling examples.
Exactly, like AI helping with clinical documentation.
Oh, the paperwork burden.
Right, which can, free up valuable time for doctors and nurses to actually focus on the patients.
That makes sense.
And it's also really boosting how we interpret medical images, like in radiology.
Mm-hmm.
It can provide real-time guidance during surgery, which is amazing, and even play a big role in public health, like identifying potential risks in whole populations.
Wow. And it sounds like actually using these tools, the accessibility, has really increased lately.
Yeah, that's a key point. What's particularly noticeable is the development of more, let's say, user-friendly AI.
Okay.
Technologies based on machine learning and these large language models, LLMs.
Like ChatGPT technology.
Exactly, like the tech behind ChatGPT. They've made AI much more accessible, easier to interact with, even if you don't have, a computer science degree.
So you don't need to be a coder to use some of these tools now.
Pretty much. These LLMs, they're trained on just massive amounts of text, so they can understand and generate language that sounds really human.
Okay, so AI is making these big strides in actual healthcare delivery. It seems, well, logical that medical education would need to adapt quickly.
You'd think so.
But our sources suggest there's been maybe a bit of a lag.
That's right. Yeah, despite the rapid progress and how much healthcare settings are starting to rely on AI,
Hmm.
its formal integration into how we train future doctors, nurses, other professionals, it just hasn't really kept pace.
But people are noticing this gap now, aren't they? It sounds like there's some real momentum building.
Absolutely. There's a growing recognition, both among practicing physicians and medical students, about the need for what you could call AI literacy.
AI literacy.
Yeah.
So not just using the tools, but understanding them.
Exactly. Understanding their capabilities, sure, but also their limitations and how they fit into the bigger picture of medicine.
Mm.
And surveys are showing really strong support for adding structured AI education into the training programs.
So people see the need. They realize that to use these tools effectively and just navigate where healthcare is going.
Yeah, you need that solid foundation in AI. It's becoming essential.
So it's not just a few enthusiasts pushing for this. There's a broader feeling that this needs to happen.
Definitely a growing consensus.
Okay, so that leads us to the next obvious question.
Mm.
What are the ideas for how to do this? What kind of curriculum frameworks are being suggested?
Well, several studies have put forward different frameworks, ideas for integrating AI education at various stages.
Like from the very beginning, undergrad.
Yeah, undergraduate medical studies, postgraduate training, and even continuing professional development for people already working.
Keeping everyone up to speed.
Right.
And it's probably not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
I saw one source mention a specific modular framework, but just for radiography programs.
Exactly. That was karate at all. For radiography students specifically, they suggested modules covering things like data science fundamentals.
The basics.
Right, the principles of machine learning itself, the really crucial stuff about AI ethics and patient safety.
Okay, that sounds important.
Very. Also, governance and regulation around AI, how to actually evaluate if an AI tool is any good. And of course, the specific clinical applications within medical imaging.
And the idea isn't just standalone courses, right? It's about weaving it in throughout their studies.
Yeah, the recommendation is really for what they call longitudinal integration.
Longitudinal.
So gradually introducing and reinforcing AI concepts across the whole curriculum, not just a one-off lecture.
Makes sense.
And combining that with practical hands-on experience, maybe work-integrated learning opportunities too.
So you actually use it, see it in action.
Right. The goal is to build a really deep, lasting understanding of AI and what it actually means in practice.
Okay, that seems logical. Learning by doing. And for medical education more broadly, beyond just radiography, are there common themes popping up in these proposed frameworks?
Yes, across the different proposals, you definitely see recurring themes. Ethics is almost always front and center.
Yeah.
The legal aspects surrounding AI in healthcare, that's another big one. Then the actual theory understanding the AI concepts themselves.
Not just using it, but knowing how it works, roughly.
Kind of, yeah. Its applications in different medical areas, obviously, and also how AI can be used for like quality improvement within healthcare systems.
So it's really holistic, not just the tech, but the human and system implications too.
Absolutely.
What kind of specific skills or knowledge would students need within those themes? Like under ethics, what does that mean?
Well, under ethics, for example, understanding data privacy is huge. And this
Right.
idea of equitable AI, making sure that AI systems aren't, biased.
Right, amplifying existing biases.
Exactly. That's a major concern. So students need to understand different types of bias that can creep in. Legally, things like who's liable if an AI tool makes a mistake. That's critical.
Yeah, I can see that.
In terms of theory, it's grasping the strengths, but also the weaknesses of different AI models. Even basic stuff like how data gets cleaned up and prepared before an AI can use it.
Data pre-processed.
Great. And for applications, something interesting is learning how to evaluate patient feedback on AI tools. How did patients experience interacting with this AI?
Oh, okay. So it's equipping future doctors to be not just users, but sort of thoughtful critics of this tech.
That's a good way to put it. Critical consumers, perhaps.
Yeah. Another source, Gordon et al., also mentioned broader digital skills being important.
Yes, they emphasized a wider range of digital competencies, things like understanding data protection rules, GDPR, IPA, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
The legal side of using digital tools in general,
Mm.
effective digital communication, and just basic data literacy, how to work with and make sense of data.
Okay.
They also really push for using case-based approaches in teaching.
Real world examples.
Yeah, and introducing AI concepts early, but progressively, step by step, not overwhelming students right away.
Build that foundation first.
Yeah.
Okay, now things have gotten even more maybe complicated with the rise of generative AI, stuff like ChatGPT. That seems to add another whole dimension.
It absolutely does. The transformative potential of these generative AI systems, or GAI, is really remarkable.
How so?
Well, their ability to create incredibly realistic text, images, even video, it just opens up completely new avenues for how we could do medical education.
Oh, but it must also bring up big questions about using them responsibly, especially in education.
Oh, definitely. The recommendations for bringing GAI in really stress the need for clear policies on appropriate use.
Like preventing plagiarism?
Exactly. Academic integrity, data privacy, those are huge. There's also talk about setting up proper governance structures, maybe even involving students in those discussions. And of course, the curriculum itself needs to tackle both the potential clinical uses and the ethical side of GAI.
So understanding what it can do, but also what it should do ethically.
Precisely.
What are some of the core concepts about GAI that students really need to grasp?
Well, they need a basic understanding of how these large language models actually function and how much the data they were trained on influences their output. That's critical.
The training data is key.
Absolutely. Also, learning effective prompt design, basically. How to ask the AI good questions to get useful answers. That's becoming a real skill.
Prompt engineering,
You got it. And understanding things like hallucinations.
where the AI just makes stuff up.
Essentially, yeah. Generating incorrect or nonsensical information confidently. Students need to be aware of that. And also model drift, the idea that an AI's performance can change over time.
Okay, so it's not static.
Not necessarily. So it's about understanding the power, but also looking under the hood a bit, seeing the potential pitfalls.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. What are the actual perceptions? How are medical students and faculty feeling about all this AI integration? Are they excited? Nervous?
The research suggests, well, generally positive attitudes overall. Both students and faculty seem open to the idea of bringing AI into medical education.
That's good.
But there are some interesting differences in how well they understand it, and some specific concerns definitely pop up.
Okay, like what? One study mentioned faculty might have a broader understanding.
That's right, Nessier et al. Found that faculty tend to have a more comprehensive grasp of AI. It goes beyond just the tools like ChatGPT that students might be more familiar with day to day.
Faculty see the bigger picture, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah. A deeper understanding of the underlying concepts, maybe.
And what worries are students voicing?
Well, a big one is potentially becoming too reliant on AI.
De-skilling.
Kind of, yeah. Worries about how it might impact their own critical thinking, their diagnostic skills. Ethical issues come up too, privacy, naturally, but also job security. Will AI replace doctors?
The perennial question.
Right. And some students also worry about, frankly, struggling with the material if they feel their background in math or stats or computer science isn't super strong.
That's understandable. It's new territory.
Absolutely. And the study by Jabrin et al., looking at Palestinian students, brought up some other interesting points.
What do they find?
Some students there were concerned that spending time on AI might take away from learning what they see as core medical subjects, things more immediately relevant maybe to the local healthcare situation they'll be working in.
Ah, the opportunity cost.
Exactly. And they also pointed to real financial and technological barriers in their region that make accessing AI education difficult.
Resource constraints.
Big time. And interestingly, that Crotty study on radiographers noted something odd.
What was that?
Some reported feeling confident using AI even without formal training, which kind of makes you wonder.
Is the confidence justified, or is it overconfidence?
Precisely. It raises questions about self-assessment versus actual competence.
So a mix of excitement, some valid anxieties, and context really matters. That finding about older students and male students feeling more knowledgeable is interesting too.
Yeah, Nasser et al. Found that. It suggests there might be, existing differences in confidence levels between student groups.
Which education programs might need to address.
Could be something to consider, yeah. Providing tailored support, perhaps.
Okay, so stepping back to the bigger picture, what are the main upsides people point to for integrating AI? And what are the biggest roadblocks we need to figure out?
The potential benefits are pretty significant. AI is seen as a way to really enhance diagnostic skills.
Catching things earlier or more accurately?
Potentially, yes. Also, providing students with more personalized guidance and feedback as they learn, making assessment processes more efficient.
Like grading or simulations?
Yeah, creating really realistic clinical simulation environments for training, increasing transparency in education somehow. And ultimately, the hope is it contributes to better patient care.
The end goal.
Right. And in specific areas, like we said with radiography, it can help with practical tasks too. Automatic patient positioning, image analysis assist.
Those are definitely compelling benefits. But the challenges seem just as important to acknowledge.
Absolutely. Concerns about over-reliance and misuse, like we mentioned, are huge.
Using it as a crutch.
Or using it inappropriately. Then there's the black box issue with some AI.
Where you don't know how it reached its conclusion.
Exactly. It's hard to interpret the reasoning, which it can be problematic in medicine. The risk of errors in AI tools is real, too. They aren't perfect.
No kidding.
Ensuring really robust data privacy and security is paramount, obviously. Bridging the knowledge gap between the doctors using the tools and the engineers designing them is another challenge.
Getting everyone speaking the same language.
It takes time, that interdisciplinary collaboration. And as we discussed, tech and financial limits are real barriers in many places.
And just keeping up. AI changes so fast.
That's a huge one. Keeping the curriculum up to date requires this constant collaborative effort between educators, clinicians, and the tech industry itself.
It sounds like a really delicate balancing act, tapping into the potential while managing all these risks.
It really is, ensuring it truly enhances medicine and education, rather than detracting.
Now, some of the sources got into specific innovative ways people are already trying to teach this stuff. What are some interesting examples?
Yeah, we're seeing some creative approaches. Some schools are doing preclinical lectures specifically on AI algorithms.
It's getting into the weeds a bit.
A little. Interdisciplinary courses, bringing medical and engineering students together, those are popping up. Elective AI courses for students who are really keen.
Okay.
And a big trend seems to be integrating AI concepts into the existing curriculum.
Not just adding separate stuff.
Right. Using things like journal clubs to discuss AI research papers relevant to what they're already learning, doing coding demonstrations, having sessions that explicitly link AI to core medical topics using actual research.
That Digital Health Scholars Program sounds like a prime example of that integrated approach.
It really does. Park et al.'s description of it at Dartmouth's medical school, they took first-year topics like immunology, cardiology.
Standard stuff.
Standard stuff. And linked them directly to relevant research papers that used AI methods. Then they had journal clubs on the data science, live coding sessions showing the methods, and even integration sessions with the actual researchers who did the AI studies.
That sounds incredibly valuable. Did it work?
Well, The pilot study showed really significant jumps in student confidence about understanding the AI concepts and high satisfaction with the program overall.
That's really promising. It shows you can make AI relevant early on.
Seems so.
And AI isn't just for teaching concepts, it's also being used to create learning tools.
Yes, absolutely. People are exploring things like chatbot-style apps for learning anatomy, for example.
Like quizzing yourself.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even practicing difficult conversations, like how to deliver bad news using an AI simulation.
Interesting.
Machine learning is also being used to build personalized learning systems adapting to what each student needs, and to automate the creation of big libraries of clinical case studies.
Which are crucial for learning clinical reasoning.
Exactly. Teaching and assessing that skill.
And speaking of assessment, AI is being used there too, right?
Yeah.
To evaluate skills.
That's right. Things like virtual reality trainers, using AI to give feedback on surgical techniques, automated analysis of how well a surgeon performed based on video.
Objective measures?
Potentially, yeah. And even automated grading of OSCEs, those practical exams where students interact with standardized patients.
Objective structured clinical examinations.
Yeah.
AI grading those. Wow.
It's being explored, definitely. Applying AI to assess competence in new ways.
Okay, one last really interesting concept from the sources, specifically Gordon et al. This idea of culture shock with AI integration.
Yeah, that was an insightful framing. They suggest thinking about AI adoption, like adjusting to a new culture.
How so?
It might go through phases, maybe a honeymoon phase first, lots of excitement, idealism.
Everything's amazing.
Right, followed by a frustration phase where people feel maybe overwhelmed by the new tools, the changes.
The reality sets in.
Then adaptation, where people start figuring out how to actually make it work in their daily routines. And finally, acceptance, where AI becomes, genuinely integrated, a normal part of the professional culture.
And recognizing those phases could help manage the transition.
That's the idea. It helps educators and institutions understand that it's not just about installing software, it's a human process, a cultural shift.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just tech, it's people changing how they work and learn.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a really comprehensive deep dive. It feels like we've covered a lot of ground on AI and medical education.
We definitely have.
So, to kind of summarize the key takeaways,
Mm-hmm.
it seems clear AI is moving incredibly fast from like sci-fi to actual reality in healthcare
No doubt about it.
and integrating it thoughtfully, strategically into how we train future doctors and healthcare workers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a nice to have anymore, is it?
No, it really feels increasingly essential. It's about preparing them for the future they will be practicing in.
Right. And while the potential upsides, better learning, better assessment, maybe better patient care, are huge,
They really are substantial.
the challenges are just as significant. We need to be really careful about the ethics, the technology needed, the best ways to actually teach this stuff.
Absolutely. There's challenges around ethics, tech infrastructure, pedagogy. They need very careful consideration.
And for you, the learner, listening in, getting a handle on these dynamics, it just seems increasingly important for navigating your own future.
Yeah, whether you end up working directly in healthcare or not, just being an informed person in a world shaped by this tech.
Exactly.
Which kind of leads to a big, maybe provocative final thought for you to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
Given how unbelievably fast AI is developing, how can medical education possibly prepare future professionals, not just for the AI tools we have today?
Which will be outdated soon enough.
Right, but for the innovations we can't even imagine yet. How do we build that adaptability, that critical thinking, while also making sure we preserve the fundamental human side of medicine?
That's the core tension, isn't it? Tech versus touch.
It really is. And what role do you, the learner, see yourself playing in that evolving landscape? It's something worth thinking about.
Definitely food for thought. And, this deep dive, it's really just scratched the surface. This field is moving so quickly.
It absolutely is.
So we'd really encourage everyone listening to explore the research further, keep asking those critical questions about AI's role in medicine, in education.
Yeah, think about what specific skills, what knowledge will be most valuable as AI becomes even more deeply integrated.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.